Welcome to the Unwritten Podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we are on a mission to help the world find more purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in because we are all on this journey of life together. Share some experiences growing up, childhood, adolescence, teen years, young adulthood, up until this moment that makes you who you are and what you're doing now.
Where to begin? Yes, I will share the most poignant one that led me to my current work and why you and I are talking. I had my first panic attack when I was 8 years old, in between third and fourth grade, in the middle of a very busy restaurant. And it was terrifying and horrible. And I didn't know what was happening. My parents didn't really know what to do. And for that whole summer, I was very, very anxious. There were a couple of reasons in retrospect why I saw that happen. But, I was switching schools. My parents were having marital problems, and I was a very sensitive kid. And so even though we were out to dinner as a family with my little brother coloring, and they were sitting across from me on the table, I knew something was wrong. And my body was responding as if I was under attack. That's what panic attacks, that's what anxiety attacks are. Your nervous system is overwhelmed, it's sensing danger, and it either wants to run, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It wants to protect you. Even though I was sitting in the TGI Fridays and I wasn't under any threat, but my body was telling me I was, that there was something wrong was happening. That entire summer I couldn't eat. So what happened with the panic attack is I felt like I needed to run out of there. I wanted to flight. I wanted to run away. And I felt overwhelmingly nauseous, even though I hadn't eaten anything yet. And that's very common, in my work now that I've become a certified stress management coach. Your body does certain things when you have panic and anxiety attacks. And that's one of them, is that you don't want to eat. It's not a time to rest and digest. It's a time to run away, to fight, to defend yourself. So I wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. And I'm sure many listeners would understand if they've had any kind of panic or anxiety attacks. It's very uncomfortable. Consciously, like, this is not right. Shouldn't be going on right now. But you're feeling it. And your body's overtaking your mind. Your body's stress hormones are overtaking your conscious mind. So that whole summer, I just couldn't eat. Like, every time that I thought of food, I just felt like I wanted to throw up. I was already a skinny kid. I was an athlete and a dancer. I lost a lot of weight. By the end of the summer, my parents stayed together. They never got divorced. And by the end of the summer, my brother had a birthday party and a soccer game broke out. And I used to play soccer. And like the act of running that much got me out of whatever was going on in my head. And I ate. And then the following week, I started my new school and I was fine. And then I went back to being me. However, throughout my life, never as well, I shouldn't say never as bad as that one, but that was the first one. So it felt horrible. I've had, moments where that stress and anxiety, my body was overtaking me again, many, many times. In social situations, I was pursuing professional acting. So, at auditions or right before auditions, on dates, waking up in the middle of the night, like it became something that I had to deal with. And when I would go to doctors, and I'd been a therapist, a couple of psychiatrists that gave me medications that didn't really work, I was always a seeker. I was raised with a mom who knew a lot about nutrition, and she did help me
Mm-hmm.
somewhat. She probably should have taken me as therapist, which she didn't do, but she did teach me like about nutrition. And also, I had some other experiences where I realized that doctors, while they mean well, don't always have the answers. And so I have to be my own advocate, especially around mental health, especially around certain aspects of health. You know, if I break my arm, I'm going to go to the ER. They're going to set it, and my body's going to heal. But with my anxiety and stress attacks, they're like, you know, in the mental health industry, they're like, well, try this pill. Oh, that pill didn't work. We'll try this pill. Oh, we'll double it. Like, it's just kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall. And it made me get to the point of like, well, I guess that's just who I was. I was a seeker. I wanted to know why this was happening.
Mm.
So I did get a bachelor's degree from UC Berkeley in psychology. I thought about becoming a therapist, but I've now become a certified stress management and anxiety coach where I focus on helping people with what I've dealt with my whole life.
The specifics, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Therapy is great. It looks at your past.
Yeah.
And coaching, mental health coaching is really like, what are your goals and what do you want to achieve? And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
for people, medication works. It didn't work for me. You know, I blog about how I loved Xanax. Xanax is great.
Oh.
It was here you go. That's the Western medicine's answer for anxiety. It's a benzodiazepine, as is Valium, Ativan. Hey, they work really well. They're also highly addictive and not meant to be on them for the rest of your life. And I even weaned myself off. I would barely. I even just had my prescription, just like break glass in case of emergency. If all the things that I know how to do, my mind, body, spirit approach doesn't work, I just
No,
have this
yeah.
prescription. And I had one bottle of 30 pills, the lowest dose, and I would break them in half if I had a panic attack. It was
Yeah.
and my doctor a few years back said, "Oh, I'm not renewing. I would like just 30 pills in a year is not a lot. You know, even double, even broken in half." And she said, "No, I can't renew your prescription." I said, "Why not?" She said, "They're highly addictive." This was, post opioid crisis. She's like, "They're highly addictive, and I don't think you should be on them." I'm like, "Well, what else do you have? What's the option?" She gave me some other drug that just made me sleep. It didn't like help me function. And so
Mm-hmm.
after that, I was like, okay, Western medicine really doesn't have an answer. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was a big one that has influenced my life and how I got here, because it's always my body's responses have always, my anxious responses have always crept into my life and prevented me from being my best. And
Yeah.
so then I realized, like, okay, this is my purpose, because there's a
Mm.
lot of people experiencing this, especially now, especially post COVID. You're a veteran. A lot of veterans experience PTSD. It's all kind of interwoven. You
Mm.
know, I read all the time about how people are diagnosed with anxiety disorder. And if you know
Oh,
why the
yeah.
why the body is responding to, say, you take a example like a veteran from any war has PTSD. Well, the nervous system evolved over hundreds of thousands of years for physical threats: lions, tigers, bears, fire,
Me oh my.
oh me, oh my. And our society has evolved very rapidly, very, very rapidly, where most of us don't have those threats anymore, unless maybe you're at war or, some people do. But your nervous system, your body is always trying to keep you safe, keep you protected. So, for example, for PTSD, your brain remembers traumatic stuff, and maybe in the moment you are able to get through because, and I've had this, I've been mugged at gunpoint twice, where I was
Oh,
super
wow.
calm. Like, I wasn't like,
Wait, what happened?
okay, so that's twice. Once
Yeah.
in college up in the Bay Area, once in Los Angeles. I'll tell the one in Los Angeles because that one was, well, they both messed me up.
Yeah.
I had just broken up with my boyfriend. I moved into an apartment. We lived together. I moved into an apartment nearby. I was coming home late because I was out with my friends and I was single and I was like, 29, and these,
Ready to mingle.
yeah. And these two, I lived in Los Angeles, and when we moved into this area, a neighbor said, because we didn't have parking, these were these beautiful old Spanish townhouses, gorgeous, but no parking. So you had to park on the street. And if you came home late at night, you had to walk far. I think I probably was coming home around midnight, and I rounded a corner, and this neighbor told me, hey, sometimes like gang members from the hood will come up and mug people. It wasn't a rich area, but people had enough money, like, $100 on them or something.
Middle class or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she told me this when we moved in. So I was kind of warned, and it happened to me. I rounded this corner. These two guys weren't waiting for me because we were both surprised. Like, they had a gun. And they were right on the corner of a main area, but it was late. I surprised them. They surprised me, but they pulled out a gun. They were like, hey. And I saw it, and I did freak out in the moment. Like, I was calm enough. My body took over. I started running and screaming. I guess that's not an example of being calm. I guess the first one I was calm.
I was calm, but I was running and screaming.
Running and screaming. Well, the first one I talked myself out of, like, because that was a different situation. And then I ran to a friend's house. I was fine. They didn't take anything. Like, I was mentally really messed up and scared.
They didn't chase you?
Huh?
They didn't chase you?
I don't know. Not on foot. I think they had a car waiting, and they kind of got in and sped away. And I didn't know if they were like, I mean, that was an extreme example. My body was like, hyper aware. You're hyper vigilant of your
adrenaline,
surroundings for, threats of danger. And afterwards that just I had PTSD. I would walk down the street if someone like was running, or a bike would come up behind me and I wasn't aware. I would like shake and shudder. And that's your body. Well, let me back up.
Like prepping.
Well, kinda. Let me back up. When you have a stressful brush with what your body feels like and that was potential, that was danger, right? You need to be able to go and reset. They call it homeostasis, where your body is at its normal level of just like everything's fine. When you have this peak experience of stress or fear of death, and your body isn't able to come back down and be like, we're okay, we're safe, you're going to stay heightened. Your homeostasis is now up here. And so little things that may not even be that big of a deal, say your kid does something that bothers you, or your pet's being annoying, or your spouse or whatever, then you're going to snap because you have a higher threshold of
your baseline.
Your baseline is raised. This happens in nature. So say, like, example of a gazelle and a lion. If a gazelle is running away from a lion, animals do this, it will go to once it's in a safe spot, and it will shake, it will quiver. That's why they say shake it off.
Yeah.
That's the body releasing all that energy to bring it back to homeostasis. The stress hormones that happen, the cortisol, the adrenaline, it changes our physiology, and your body literally needs to do something to process all of those chemicals and come back to normal. So after that experience, and I didn't know this, and I was in therapy, but no one knew how to help me really process that experience and get back to normal. And there's a lot more work around it now. There's like somatic exercises, which I teach. But people are so much more stressed out than ever with just the modern world. COVID changed everything. First of all, that was a collective trauma for the world. Some people died. Some people got really sick.
Man, I was so grateful to be where I was at during COVID.
Where were you?
Because I was in the military still during peak COVID, and food was on the table. We were safe.
Yeah.
We had everything taken care of. Meanwhile, like, the economy was falling apart. People were losing their jobs, and I'm over here like I felt privileged because we only had to come to work 3 days a week, and duty days, because at this point I wasn't on I was in the Navy, and I did my time on a ship. And when you're in the Navy, you do sea duty and shore duty, and you flip flop throughout your whole career. During COVID, I was on my shore duty, which is just like your like a office job type of thing,
Right.
and I was just so grateful that we only had to come into work 3 days a week and duty days, which is like a whole day at work, pretty much. Like you sleep there, whatever. Um, Meanwhile, everybody else was, you know,
Yeah.
so yeah. I was just gonna say I was just grateful for during that
No,
time.
it's yeah. I mean, well, first of all, thank you for your service. Second of all, yeah, it's like that was probably a very, very good thing, you know, at the time. You didn't have the worries that most people did. It was very scary. It was very scary, the unknown, you know, especially for someone like me who's an entrepreneur, you know, routine and having somewhere to be. And it's very good for the brain sometimes
Your
or for certain
identity, yeah.
personality types because you know where you're going to be. You have a modicum of control, at least in your brain, of like, you know, the unknown can be very scary to people, especially when you don't know, especially when the whole world was sick and
Man,
we
it
didn't
was
know what was going
crazy.
on.
I was in San Diego and I remember uh during COVID, like the streets were empty, like
Hmm.
it looked like like apocalypse.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah. So that whole experience was traumatic for humanity. And they
Yeah.
say we were overdue for a pandemic. It's the one
What does that
thing.
even mean? What
Well,
does that even mean?
this is what it means in my mind.
Yeah.
Because we have conquered our tigers, our lions, our bears, the few things that, or one of the few things that can still take us down as a, not a predator, but a threat, are microbes, bacteria and viruses. And this one, you know, I think it may have been messed with in a lab. It was kind of strange. I don't think it was released on purpose. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but
Uh,
you know, the government, all governments, actually, most governments participate in, you know,
That's funny.
biological messing around of things. And who knows? I mean, the way it, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor or scientist, but I'm a lay one. I like,
A
I like to
what?
read about that stuff. And
Oh yeah, yeah,
um, I understand it fairly well. I was a biology nerd in high school, so it's interesting. It just affected the body differently in compared to other, you know,
Well,
coronaviruses.
they have legit research labs that create and test different viruses.
Yeah,
Like that's a real thing.
yeah,
But
and
the
they mess
whole
with
like root
DNA
of
and they
it,
spice
yeah.
stuff, and yeah,
Mm-hmm. The whole root of it is still unknown, I guess. And in my opinion, it was blown out of proportion. Like I don't think we needed to lock down or do any of that. Um,
I think
in my opinion.
again, the unknown. There was so much of it that was unknown. You know, in
Yeah.
retrospect, it really did. Like for some, your average healthy person who didn't have, you know, wasn't morbidly obese, didn't already have some kind of immune compromised disease or anything like that, was going to be okay. They may have gotten sick, but they weren't going to die. It was really those comorbidities that, like, that's when people were not okay and that, you know, could.
Did you ever get it?
Oh yeah, I got it twice.
I got it. one- I'm pretty sure I had it. I never got it diagnosed, but um, my ex that I was living with at the time, she was diagnosed with it, and then I got sick like a week later,
Yeah, you had it.
but I never. Yeah.
You did. Yeah.
And I just felt I didn't have all like the crazy symptoms. I just had like a very deep like headache. Like it was like a deep, deep headache
Yeah.
just sitting there.
Yeah.
And I just felt super tired. Like I just wanted to
Yes.
like I was on melatonin for like a week
Yeah.
straight. Like that's how I felt. I just felt very tired, very throbbing deep headache for like a week straight and just wanted to sleep all week. I
Yeah.
didn't have like the loss of smells and taste and whatever else, but yeah, that was it.
Me too. I was exhausted, like
Mhm.
passing out on the couch, and I don't take naps. And
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you had it for sure. My husband just had it again. We're now back in Los Angeles.
Oh wow.
It's not as bad, the virus mutates. It wasn't, he just, again, was exhausted and just didn't feel good, but he wasn't, he was okay. But yeah,
Um,
that whole experience on its own was a lot for people to process. And then we kind of got out of it. Obviously still not out of it. My husband just had it a week ago, but it's not as serious as it was. But the society, it changed how we work. It changed how we related to people. A lot of us were very lonely for a long time. It changed our economy. It was scary with the economy. So there were so many stresses about that whole experience on top of physical stress. So when people talk about stress, we
mhm.
often think of like an emotional stress, like paying bills or my boyfriend's being a jerk or that kind of thing. There's 6 types of stress. One is a physical stress,
Mm.
which is actually like not always necessarily bad. Like when you're in the military, I'm sure you work out. When you pick up a weight,
I
yeah,
still
you
work
see
out
muscle.
every
Yeah, I see
day.
muscles. Okay, so when you pick up a weight, say you're doing a bicep curl, you're physically
Yeah.
stressing that muscle in order to make it stronger. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. Another physical stress is a virus or a bacterial infection. That's more of a bad thing, not so
Mhm.
great. But not all stress is bad. Stress can be a conduit or a precursor for growth. Like you're stressing that muscle at the time so that it can grow bigger and stronger and be healthier. So we
Mhm.
always think of stress as a bad thing. It's not necessarily. We narrow it down to that emotional stress.
It's
But
like
we
that
had,
work stress. Yeah.
well, I like to tell people there's 6 zones of stress. There's physical, which is what I just described. Social, which is like relationships, family,
Mhm.
lovers, things of that, friends. Environmental, which is your actual home and or your town and or your country. If you're not in a safe area or if you know, um,
Like a
or
war
country
zone.
like a war
Like
zone, things something like that.
yeah.
When I was mugged, I was under environmental stress because my
Environmental.
home
Yeah.
was right like a block away from where I got mugged.
From like yeah.
There's existential, which is fear of death and or being sick or on your deathbed. There's emotional, which is what we think of as all those stress, and then there's and mental, which kind of cross over a
Mm.
little bit,
With
but
emotional. Yeah.
mental and emotional kind of cross over, I think,
Crossover.
um, because you're. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about
Yeah, me
the
too.
thoughts are the language of the brain, and the emotions are the language of the body, and they affect each other. You can have a thought to create the emotion, or you can have an emotion that can kind of create the. You know what I mean? They're very
Yeah,
much
that
linked.
feeling you could like experience a feeling. I mean, it's just like when you go into fight or flight mode, you go into fight or flight mode, that's that feeling you feel. And then you have to think, what do I do next?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that COVID experience had a lot of those. It wasn't just like a one
Mm.
thing, and it was for years, and it changed a lot.
How did you how were you during that time?
I was actually also very grateful because we moved
Yeah.
from Los Angeles 2 years before, and then we were in a
Mm.
1 bedroom, my condo, and then we were in Bend, Oregon, which is much smaller and beautiful and a lot of nature. And so even though um, it still affected us, it wasn't nearly like if I'd been in a big city, that would have been worse. I still had friends down
Mm.
here, and they would describe it, and like it wasn't as bad because we were spread out more. There's less people. We did get COVID, but it came a lot later. So I was grateful for also for where I was at that time.
I
But
was when I got COVID, me and my ex were living in Big Island, Hawaii,
pretty beautiful
and
place.
it was uh, that the Hawaiian culture is very I don't know. They're kind of like in their like tradition. They're very traditional.
Hmm.
Like it's a culture with like it's America. It's technically America, but it's a culture within itself.
Oh yeah.
Um, so it was interesting to live there for. almost a year. But yeah, that's when I got COVID during that time.
Hawaii, I've been there many, many times. I'm lucky enough to have been there many times on vacation. And culturally, such a beautiful way to live. You know, they're living from their hearts all the time. Spirit of aloha, you know, and it's easier to be relaxed and loving and open when you're in that
Yeah,
scenic, gorgeous
yeah.
paradise. It's a little different, like Bend, Oregon, while beautiful, winter all the time. But
Cloudy. Yeah.
yeah, or yeah, but it's a beautiful culture and way to approach life, I think.
It's because you're like forced to see nature. Whereas if you're living in New York City, you're not forced to see nature. It's
Hmm.
not that's part of that environmental, I guess, stress. In Hawaii, the natural environment is less stressful than somebody living in a natural environment in the city of New York.
Yeah, it certainly is one of the factors that can, like, calm you down. Walking, being in nature, swimming in nature, even skiing, whatever it is, just being around, being outside. So,
I would share that the first panic attack I've had, uh, it was kind of a funny story. I was 22. Um, I was on leave from the Navy, so I was still in the Navy, and I did edibles while I was on leave.
do you want to
It's
be
very
admitting that?
yeah. I mean, I'm out now, so it
Okay.
doesn't matter. Yeah. Uh, I was on leave. It was out of my system before I came back.
Okay.
But
I'm just worried about you, Thomas. Shh.
um, but yeah, I had did edibles, and me and my one of my exes went to a concert, and it just like hit me like all at once, and I just I mean, you've experienced a panic attack, but it was so bad where I passed out in the middle of a concert, and people had to carry me
Oh.
out. People literally like I think I got crowd surfed. I don't know. I was
Oh.
I was in and out. I like blacked out. Like I was like it was like flashes,
Okay,
like
I have questions.
flashes.
First of all, what concert was it?
So it was a uh I don't know if you've heard of G Easy,
No.
but he's one of the few white rappers.
Okay.
Um G Easy, he like was coming up as a bigger known rapper at that time. It was in San Diego. It was a stadium concert, and we were in the pit section, so like near the front. And yeah, I just started feeling like damn, I don't even I didn't like I was so high
How much?
that
Okay, so I have some knowledge to share with your audience and you, because
yeah,
I have a hemp CBD company
yeah,
and learned, and before we had that, I was just, I was living in Los Angeles. When you take a THC edible, it's different than if you smoke it. If you smoke it, you start
is
feeling
yeah,
the
it's
THC goes to
so
your
different.
it goes to your lungs, it goes to your bloodstream, you feel it pretty quickly, and you can keep going or you can pull back. When you take an edible, goes to your
It's
digestive
body.
system,
Yeah,
goes to your liver, where it is, you have enzymes that
processed.
interact with it,
Yeah.
and it gets metabolized, and the metabolite of it when you eat it is like 20 times stronger than if you smoke it. So people will eat it. It takes time to even get to your bloodstream and to
You
feel
feel
it.
it. Yeah, you
And they
feel it.
may
Yeah.
eat more, or it might be their first time, and they say, "Oh, it says, take this amount on the package. I'm gonna take all of it." I've had, excuse me, I've had my soul stolen many times from edibles, where I was like, same thing. So that's like a different type of panic attack. That's just from that substance where you had so much of
Yeah.
it, and it's horrible for people because you
Well, I only
take
had
it,
two.
but
It
how
was a
much was in it?
chocolate. It was a chocolate bar. I think the chocolate bar was like 200 milligrams, and like each square was like 10 milligrams or something. I think I
Oh,
had two squares,
that's a
so
lot.
like 20
That's a lot.
20 milligrams. And I know why I now looking back at it, I know why I started to have that panic attack. I just wanted to, my body just wanted to go to sleep or like lay down.
Hmm.
Like that edible made me just want to go to sleep and lay down. But I was in the middle of a concert standing up on my feet,
Right.
and my body was like, no, you're gonna you're gonna
Yeah.
lay down. Whether you like it or not, you're gonna lay down.
Yeah. No, that's, well,
Um,
first of all, that is a lot. People
yeah.
should know this. Like, they're getting better about it in the industries where it's, sold in dispensaries. But like, if you're very new to THC, like 3 to 5 milligrams, you could feel. I'm a very much a lightweight. I feel that 20 is a lot.
No, and
And
that
if
was
you're already
me like
having
not
any
doing
kind
it
of
for
stress, like
years. Yeah.
it can amp it up. So I'm sorry you went through that. Don't do that again.
No, I remember, yeah, I remember getting carried out to the front, and at big concerts they have like paramedics on
Yeah,
standby. They had laid me down on their little stretcher, and I thought I was in trouble. I was like, I'm in the Navy. I'm gonna get kicked out. And they just calmed me down. They were like, no, we're just here to make sure you're okay. That's it. Like that's it. And
that's
like
good.
after that, and they like had like a fan in my face and like gave me some water. I was good.
That's good.
But yeah, I'll always remember that that was definitely a panic attack.
Yeah.
Um and it was not fun
No,
at all.
no. There's a lot of people that have had that experience because they don't know that, because they don't know
Mm.
how
Mm-hmm.
much to take. They get impatient. They're like, is this working? They may take too much they take too much for their body. And then also, like, depending where you're at emotionally and physically, with psychedelics, they call this set and setting. It's not quite the same, but like, if you're a sensitive person, or, got to be mindful of all those factors, and so you don't have that experience. Because yeah, you take it thinking you're gonna have a good time, feel relaxed, and then it takes you off the cliff. So I'm glad you're
Yeah,
okay.
never again. Um, do you still like do dabble in anything
Well, I
or
still have
no?
my hemp CBD company. So when I was doing the Food Heals podcast and I was acting and doing voiceover, I also was a licensed massage therapist, and that was my side hustle. That was my day job, my own business. And I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. And hemp CBD started to be a thing, and I've had back pain since I was a teenager. Actually, in the beginning of our show, I talked
Yeah.
about this is another experience that really shaped who I am today. So I was a cheerleader, and
Mm,
I'm 5'7", so I'm not super tall, but I'm not tiny. And a lot of the girls were a lot shorter. And so when we would do pyramids and put girls up, I was always on the bottom usually. And so we're putting this girl up into a pyramid. And when you do that, you're not supposed to stand straight up. You're supposed to lean in so that you don't have the pressure on your spine. And you kind of lean in, you're holding her
mm.
foot, and you push up. Well, I don't know how this happened. This was just in practice. But we pushed up, and then this girl did a split. And so my back was
Ooh.
arched like that, like forced. So I was supposed to be leaning in, and then I was forced back like that.
Oh, you overextended it.
Well, it crunched my low back. And at the time, I was
Yeah.
like, and I was still an athlete. I played lacrosse, ran track, I danced. And at the time, like, my low back's starting to hurt even just talking about it. And and I walked it off. I'm like, I'm okay. And I was okay. But it was a soft tissue injury. And with soft
Mm,
tissue injuries, those can sometimes be more problematic than, say, a broken bone, because it's all connected. And so over the course of time, it was where my hip and my low back met. It was just tweaked, and I needed massage and I needed body work. And at the time, this was 1994. Um, it wasn't too prevalent. I went to the doctor. He gave me Advil. I went to the chiropractor. He adjusted my spine, but it kept getting worse and worse and worse. So when you have a soft tissue injury, say you have a knot, any knot anywhere, in your shoulder, that is the fascia Fascia
Mm-hmm.
is connective tissue that wraps around every muscle cell, every muscle group, every muscle bundle. If I took everything away from your body, Thomas, and I just left your fascia, I would still be able to tell it's you because we have so much of it. So I'd be able to tell the shape
Oh,
of
it's
your face, and
like
it's
our
all over the
structure.
place. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's very, very thin. It's almost like saran wrap. And you know how, like, if you pull on the
Mm.
edge of saran wrap and you make a wrinkle and you keep pulling, it'll keep going? So
Mm.
that's what it does when you have a restriction, a knot. If your muscle, it's really the fascia that tightens up, not the muscle itself.
Mm.
If you don't address it, if you don't stretch it, work it out, move it around, rehab it,
Mm-hmm.
it'll pull on the fascia around it. And then if you keep letting it go, it will pull on the fascia around it. So that's what
Oh, it's
happened to
like
me.
compensating kind of.
Yeah, it's like it's a restriction.
Mm.
So we are these soft meat suits. We are not like insects that just have hard exterior shells. We
Yeah.
need, when we work out, we need to also stretch. Muscles either shorten and tighten like this, or they stretch.
Contract or extend. Yeah.
Well, if you're always shortening and tightening and you're never stretching, it's going to get stuck like that. So you need to be, that's why we have so many back problems in this country. We don't counterbalance what we're doing.
Yeah. Or you see those bodybuilders that like can't even
They
scratch their
can't
head or
they can't put their arms down because they've shortened their certain
they
muscle
can't.
groups.
It's like,
Have you seen them like this? They literally can't put their
yeah,
arms down.
their back is like bulging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because they've shortened these, and not good in the long run. Um, so that's what happened to me. And I, over the course of 6 months, I developed sciatica. I was in a lot of pain. No one could help me. And it was finally from my cousin was on the football team, and one of the players on his team, his mom was an acupuncturist.
Yeah.
And he was going for something for his wrist injury. And he's like, "Do you want to try it?" I'm like, "I have nothing to lose at this point. I'd never tried it before." And that was amazing that acupuncturist healed me. And she had a massage therapist on staff. And those two modalities healed me in a month. But it actually got worse before I got better. And
Mm.
after that, I was like, wow, why didn't the doctor tell me about this? And she explained to me, she's like, this is what's going on. In acupuncture theory, it's very different. She's like, your energy is blocked. We're going to get the energy to flow.
Yeah, I
In
still don't understand how that works.
It's amazing. It's not like made up. It's not in your head. I don't know how they ever discovered it. I've used acupuncture for
It's like
decades
ancient
now.
Chinese medicine, right?
Yeah, it's been around for, I think, over 3,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't know how they discovered it, but we are bioelectrical beings. So our nervous
Mm-hmm.
system, which is different than like the meridians, there's meridians in Chinese medicine that run up and down our body, and there's, I think, six, I could be wrong, major ones. And then there's points on them. And it's almost
Mm.
like little switch
Pressure
stations or
points.
something, little train stations. If you picture like train tracks, and there's train stations, and sometimes those train stations, they can just get stopped, like the train doesn't get to move through if the energy is like a train, and that's when you get disease. And so in their whole theory, you're unblocking that, you're getting the energy to flow. And they actually can measure it now. Like they can measure those different points. They can get, like, it's very small. It's a very small electrical charge, but we are bioelectrical beings.
Yeah,
It's fascinating. And that healed me in a month. And so
that's
after that
crazy.
experience, I was like, Western medicine doesn't know everything. I would have been a cripple had I just listened to them, and not, I had to seek something outside of what they were suggesting because they didn't have an answer for me.
Yeah,
So that's what I wound up doing the rest of my life. If I had, you know, I'm not against Western medicine at all. I've had strep throat and I've taken antibiotics, but they look at, I think, health and mental health from a very limited standpoint. And I feel like it is changing and is growing. For example, they look at everything separately. And the thing about Chinese medicine is it's all connected. We are
that's why.
just,
Yeah,
we're all,
I
our
just
whole
made a
body
video
system.
about that. Actually,
What?
one of my other podcasts, we talk about um, big pharma versus holistic health,
Mm,
and how um, big pharma, some of the medicine is necessary, but at the end of the day, it's $1 trillion business industry. I mean, I was also gonna say some statistics that there's just from the top of my head, they're not 100% accurate. You can go fact check it if you're listening to this, but um, there's one that's like if you go to 5 different doctors, they more often than not will diagnose you with 5 different things. They all have a different opinion and won't uh, diagnose you with the same thing all the time. And then the other one is uh, the opioid statistics is something like there's like over 100 million people that are actually prescribed legal opioids in the world. And that's yeah, it's like we always talk about people being like drug addicts and whatever, but it's like I think big pharma and like medicine is just like kind of promoting that in a way
Yeah, I would agree. They don't want us to die, but they certainly want us unwell enough to be taking some pills.
to profit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge business. Yeah, they get away with a lot, and that's so for me and my family, my husband, my pets. I look to stay away from doctors as much as possible in terms of nutrition and well-being and balance, because look, the doctors themselves, they're trained by medical schools. They have less than 10 hours of nutrition study, and we know what we put in our
Mm,
bodies matters. If you live on a diet of fast food, you're going at some point going to get sick. If you drink soda and eat crap, you're not garbage in, garbage out. Doctors don't look at things that way.
yeah.
They're taught either cut or give a pill. That's mainly, I had to go outside and
Mm,
see, well, what else is there for me, for my back? And that was just a
mm,
small, when you look at, I feel like physical structural stuff is smaller in comparison, even though I was in a lot of pain, to say things that can be much more scary mentally, like cancer or diabetes or any kind of degenerative disease. They like to keep us in fear because it is scary if you got
mm,
sick. But I believe our mental, and this is where I love Dr. Joe Dispenza again, our mental state of being has a lot of effect on our meat suit. When you're under the when you're under the hormones of stress, it physiologically changes your body many
oh
ways.
yeah, I've listened to like almost all of his podcasts that he's been on, and he always has like those crazy stories of people like with cancer
Hmm.
or um uh disabilities like
Yeah,
where they can't walk
yeah,
or something, and literally like changing their it's like reprogramming your mind.
yeah,
um
exactly.
and then when you reprogram your mind like and actually like to the point where you actually believe it and you're
Hmm.
like a new person
Hmm.
kind of, you your body starts to change.
Yeah, I actually went to his advanced
Oh, how was
meditation,
it?
life changing. So I only got into
Really?
his work about a year and a half ago. At the same time, another friend of mine did, and she went to his retreat before me, and I was like, I want to go. And so I wanted to go to Cancun in December. So this was a couple months ago, and I was like, oh, it's, I shouldn't really be going. It's Christmas and it's a lot of money. And I was like, I need to go for me. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done, and
Hmm.
also the best thing I've ever done for myself. And I'm obsessed with it.
Are you
His
allowed to like
meditations are
say
next.
how
What's that?
are you allowed to say like how it works?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, um, it's so he does guided meditations, and I could go on and on forever, but there's a lot of resources if people want to get into his work. He has
Yeah.
3 books. I've read them and listened to them, and it gets he backs it with science. It's not all BS. He's not
Yeah,
making
it's
this
like
up.
it's quantum science.
It's quantum physics. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so his meditations are meant to bring us into different brainwave states. So we have right now, you and I are talking. We are in beta brainwave state, means we're awake and we're alert and we're interacting. High beta is stress. Remember when I was mugged, or remember
Mm.
we have like extreme stressful situations. And then let me see if I can remember these in correct order. Then there's alpha.
Delta
No,
or
there's
alpha?
alpha, which is like right before sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Delta and theta, or theta and delta. I might be reversing them, but those are like the deep, deep states of sleep, where you're still technically conscious, but you're not thinking. I was trying to explain this to a friend, and she's like, "Wait, I thought like if you're conscious, you're we were talking about this. She couldn't understand it. I was like, well, when you're asleep, you're still conscious. You're just not thinking. Thinking does not equal consciousness. In fact, it's a problem for most of us because we think these
Yeah,
negative
yeah,
thoughts. And this goes back to what I was
yeah.
saying earlier, Thomas, is like your brain's learning since the day we are popped out of the womb. We're taking in information and we're learning so that we can survive and like live our life. And this is,
Yeah,
but not all of it we need to be aware of. Like now we have social media and news scrolls and so much crap going on in the world that's terrifying,
yeah,
that we see it, we hear it, we feel it, and our bodies are like this all the time. And so his work
yeah,
is meant to have you become no one, no thing, nowhere, no time. Dissociate from who you are, who you think you are, because what we all are is pure consciousness.
yeah.
And to let go of who you think you are. So say you are dealing with some sort of health issue. Well, when I was in college, there was a big debate about nature versus nurture. Are you destined to have XYZ disease because of your genes and your ancestors? Or is it something that
Yeah.
happened in your world, your environment, nurture, that created this disease? Well, it's a combination of both. They have a lot of studies, and he has this in his books, the Dispenza books, where you can have twins that one gets a disease and one doesn't. They have the exact same genetic code. Well, why? Something happened
Mm,
in their life that turned their genes on, and genes can turn on and turn off. That's the one thing that
mm,
Western medicine is not really getting to. Hopefully they will eventually. But just because you have a gene for, say, diabetes
yeah,
or breast cancer
yeah.
doesn't mean you're going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then on top of that, mind over matter, your brain, your thoughts are creative. So if you close your eyes, if whoever's listening to this or watching this, if you close your eyes and you think about biting into an ice pop, not
Mm.
all of you might, but if you really think about crunching into an ice pop or something really, really cold, or like you might feel the hairs on your, like on your arm stand up. You did it.
Oh, no, no. There's a funny story I have about that when I was listening to one of Tony Robbins' old like 90s uh stories, cassette tapes that like went around. You know Tony Robbins?
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, he that 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 just triggered a memory of one of those old cassette tapes when he was learning neuro linguistics and how to break patterns in people's minds.
Yeah.
One of his promotions he had was, I can uh I can make your significant other orgasm without even touching her.
Hello.
And
That's why he's so wealthy.
he said that was what, like, when he first learned neuro linguistics, he actually did that, like, and like I guess that was what he was promoting at the time when he was coming up. But yeah, people actually experienced that without,
Mm-hmm.
it was just like him talking
Mm-hmm.
and them really being in tuned,
Mm-hmm.
and then it happening.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you can do this with lots of things. Like little kids are really good at it because they don't have a separation. Like you can imagine things and your body can respond as if you're really there. Your brain does not know the difference, whether you're imagining it or you're actually in the experience. And so this is where the Dispenza work just blows my mind. The more I
Yeah.
learned about it, I'm like, wait, what? And I've had profound, it was life changing. I love his work. I highly recommend any listeners, watchers to go check it out because it's just, again, he backs it all up with science. And I personally, it's hard. His meditations challenge your emotional and your physical addictions in terms of, well, I'm tired, I don't feel like doing this, or I'll do that tomorrow, or, you know, your motivations and who you think you are. You know, I used to have a lot of depression on top of the anxiety and the stress. They kind of like a pendulum like this. And a lot of it is based on the thoughts from the past or the fear of the
Mm,
future. So anxiety is fear of the future, and depression's regretting the past. The point of power is in the present moment, always.
mm.
The past has already happened. You can't change it. The future hasn't happened yet. You can affect it, but it hasn't happened yet. So, but we're always going back and forth. And again, Western medicine's like, well, just take this pill. They're not really addressing,
It's
like,
like temporarily
yeah,
fixing, or like, what's that old saying? Like slapping lipstick on a pig, or spraying shit with fucking perfume.
yeah,
Or so-
yeah. And
yeah.
so it takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more. It's easier to pop a pill. That Xanax works perfectly for me until I got cut off from it. It's a lot
Oh,
easier to pop
really?
a pill.
You
It's a
got
lot
cut off
easier to
from it?
take a, you know, a statistical population of whatever they have and just here, just take this and you're going to pay $95 a pill and bye bye. It takes a lot more work to do what we're talking about, to delve into your
Mm.
thoughts, to really be conscious of how you're moving in the world, to turn off your social media and your news and say, this is not helping me right now. This is triggering my stress.
Well, I think it comes also back down to the culture we've cultivated in
Yes.
our modern society, especially when it comes to instant gratification. Because um, there's a quote that David Goggins says. He says, like, it's so easy to be great and successful nowadays because everybody is lazy, or they want instant gratification like right now, and all you have to do is do the work, be consistent, and you'll be ahead of like 90% of people. And yeah, I think it goes back to that instant gratification. Like, I need a fix and I need a fix now. So let me go get a fix now, even though it's temporary. I could keep taking it to make it feel like it's permanent, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. We talked about the Hawaiian culture. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of cultures around the world that value peace and pleasure and quality of life over
Hmm.
success and achievement and money. And you know, it's hard to be in our culture. It really, really is. Like it's very stressful. And so I coach people to take back the reins of their own life and to be able to say no to things so that they can
Hmm.
feel more in control, more
Alive.
peaceful, more
Yeah.
present, more joyous.
Yeah. I did bring up the wave patterns you were trying to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Um so the highest, I think that's the highest frequency,
Gamma is the
is
highest, but
gamma. Yeah, gamma. And then there's like a chart I'm looking at. It says gamma is the highest, greater than 30 hertz. This is your awareness. Beta, 13 to 30 hertz, is your alertness. That's right underneath gamma. Underneath beta is alpha, 8 to 12 hertz. This is a feeling of relaxed feeling. Theta is below alpha. That's 4 to 7 hertz. This is a tired feeling. And delta is 1 to 3 hertz. This is the frequency when you're asleep.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So gamma, Dispenza talks about gamma. Gamma is almost like, how do I?
Heightened awareness.
It's, but it's not like that. Remember, I said beta, and then high beta is stress, and then gamma,
Hmm.
I think, is where, because we did these crazy meditations. One was 5 hours
Yeah.
long.
What?
Yeah.
What'd you do for 5 hours?
Yeah. So he has us, he recommends, and at these workshops, we meditate we meditate and we do lecture, we meditate and we do lecture. And the best times to meditate are either when you're waking up or when you're falling asleep, because it's easier for the door to the subconscious. You want to be on that verge of falling asleep, but you still want to stay awake.
Yeah.
And that's where you are more easily able to go into no one, no thing, no place, no time.
That's crazy.
So we would wake up very, very early. I hate, I hate waking up early. Hate it. In fact, I took
Oh
one
yeah,
class before
it's
10 a.m. in college, and that's why
yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur, because I want to be able to sleep when I want to sleep. I did it. We were meditating at 6 a.m. most days, and then this one day we got up and we were meditating starting at 4 a.m.
Oh wow.
And in Ayurveda, they talk about that too. That's the best because again, science based. So melatonin versus serotonin. Melatonin, you mentioned it. We make it in our bodies. You can take it as a supplement to help fall asleep. But melatonin, when it starts to get dark out, our body starts to create it, and it's a signal
It's
to
like yeah.
we're starting. It's time to get ready for bed, and
Mm.
it starts to increase. And I think it peaks around 2 a.m. and then it starts to decline, and we start creating serotonin, and that's to wake up. So it's this gentle like balancing act, and
Mm-hmm.
it's when it changes over each way, either in the morning or at night, where it's best to meditate. You can still do it during the day, but you can more
That's
easily
kind of
access
crazy
those
that
different
you
brain states. And so we got up at 4 a.m. or we were meditating
yeah.
at 4 a.m. and he was guiding us this whole time. And we would go
Mm-hmm.
from sitting to laying down to sitting to laying down. And I lost track. I don't know if I was in gamma. He used to he measures people at his workshops. He's done it so
Yeah.
much but I was, I woke, when he finally woke us up, he's like, that was 5 hours. And we were all like, what? It was awesome. It was so
It's like
incredible.
time stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's
you
crazy.
start to see fractal patterns. It's very people are probably like, this is crazy. It's phenomenal. So he has books, he has audiobooks.
No, I want to go to one of his
You should.
too. Like I want to do all of the things, like all of the events from all
Yeah.
of these people.
Yeah. Well,
Um
you can start meditating like there's a series on Gaia called Rewired, and that's basically his latest book in a video format. If people learn better from video, you can get that through Amazon, and his work is just next level. I'm totally obsessed with it. It's like the graduate school of what I teach. Um, it's just
well, I
it'll
do
change your life.
I don't know. That's funny that you brought that up, is like morning and night, because I do at night I listen to like the sleep frequencies or whatever, or like sometimes I'll listen to like sound healing
Hmm.
uh for sleep,
Hmm.
and in the morning I do the Wim Hof style breath work,
Hmm.
and some of the there's some creators that recreated the Wim Hof rhythmic breathing, but they added the frequencies and like sound
Hmm.
healing to it.
Hmm.
And I'll do that for like 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes I do like 2 sessions like back to back, and sometimes I do it before I do a podcast
Hmm.
as well, and it just gets me into like this I don't know, like you said, like some like time stop kind of like
Hmm.
flow mode,
Hmm.
like where you're like you're focused on what you're gonna do next, like the present. I guess it helps me focus on the present moment
Yeah,
a
it's very
lot.
similar. So Dr. Dispenza does a specific breath work, and I'm familiar with Wim Hof. It's very similar in terms of what it's trying to achieve. So you're
Hmm.
trying to get to a state of presence, basically, and you're not thinking. You're relaxed, or you're moving the breath through the body's relaxed, therefore the mind's relaxed, and then you can be present into what you're doing. You're not thinking about the future, regretting the past.
Yeah. um I guess we can move on to the next
Yeah,
topic. But no, that was good. Everything we talked about is good, and I think it's um, very important, especially if you're trying to find yourself and find more meaning um, in this noisy world, I guess. I did want to ask, do you have, like, when you were an actress and voice actress, is there any roles that I would recognize?
Oh, no.
No?
No, I mean, I was small parts. I never broke through. You know, I did a lot of theater. Um, Not really. No.
Really?
Hmm.
But you did it for like how long?
A long time. Well, you know, I did it because I loved
You
it.
made a living off of it.
Yeah, but I had to supplement. You know, it's not easy to be once
Oh,
you're born
yeah,
into it. I was still doing massage and energy work. I mean, I was on SNL once. I was on some soap operas
yeah.
once. A
Really?
couple did. Yeah, I did a lot of voiceover stuff. But like, you know, my voice was on the Olympics. But like, nothing
It was
like.
like a gig thing, more of like a gig thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to touch base on that one. And
Mm.
then so today, how do you deal with the day-to-day anxiety, or how do you deal with do you still get bouts of depression today?
No, no, I
You're a
don't.
new person.
I am a new person. I did a lot of work on it and decided to make it my next level life's purpose because I realized like they say you should teach what you know. And I didn't want people to
Yeah.
struggle the way I had struggled since I was a kid through different mental health issues, depression, anxiety, PTSD, burnout. I've done them all. and and I sought out things that would help me because doctors couldn't or didn't or there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't they didn't have enough like I needed to know why this was happening and how I could feel better. And so all the things we talked about and other things that I do, techniques, somatic exercises, breathing, meditation, you know, I created basically a program for myself. Um, and that's what I now teach. I teach a group coaching class called Serenity School, and I teach other people the same. It's like a bag. Of, you know, it's like a toolbox, and I
Yeah.
teach people these different tools that are natural and that you can try out and you can find what works for you. And if you're experiencing something and that doesn't work, well, you go to this tool or you go to this tool. If people want to check
Yeah.
out one of the things that I use, they can go to my website, suzyhardy.com, sign up for my newsletter. They're going to get a video tutorial of my number one tool. Super easy to learn, very quick. You can teach it to children. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
It's very effective. Because, like I said, pills did not work for me, especially when I was cut off. I mean, they did, and then they got cut off from them. And you're not supposed to be on that forever anyway.
Yeah.
So depression, no. I still sometimes get my anxiety, but then I go to my toolbox. And that I think is just honestly for me, this day and age, COVID, AI, crazy wars, climate change, all the things going on where the world is a little nuts right now. And so I don't want people to suffer the way I suffered. So that's what I do now.
I actually have a book. I don't know if you heard of it. Have you heard of this guy?
Yes, I've seen his stuff on YouTube.
The
This he
six.
teaches the Silva method too. I think he's into. I haven't checked him
Yeah,
out.
he wrote that book about the 6 phases of meditation, and it's based off of the Silva method.
Hmm.
But it's kind of similar to Tony Robbins' meditations as well. But it's kind of like taking you from like a state of like gratitude and joy, and then turning that into a reality, kind
Hmm.
of.
Hmm.
It's kind of like a visualization sort of meditation.
Yeah, all
But
helpful.
yeah, what would you tell to somebody that is struggling finding themselves and they feel lost?
I would say you did the hardest part, which is to admit to yourself you're struggling and you feel lost. Because as Americans, we watch commercials for Zoloft and for Happy, and all these products for Happy. We're very big
Yeah.
consumers, and it's like sometimes we feel really crappy if we feel crappy, feel badly about feeling badly, and it's okay. And that's the biggest
Mm.
step and the hardest step. And then thereafter, it's to seek out other ways of feeling better, whether that be going to therapy, finding someone like me to work with, seeking out what works for you. Because I just can speak from my own experience. I started feeling crappy as a child mentally and wanted to push it aside, ignore it, medicate it, pretend it wasn't there, and that made it worse.
Mm.
So it's not your fault. Your body and your brain evolved for a different time, a different lifestyle where we were clan people. And like now, the
Clan people.
technology that we have, social media, news feeds, we weren't evolved to deal with all that so quickly. And doctors will just say, oh, you have an anxiety disorder. No, your body's responding the way it was meant to respond to the threats according to how it evolved. Now things have changed. And
Mm.
you have to do extra work in order to calm your body down. You have to take care of yourself. You have to advocate for yourself. So that's what I suggest is be kind to yourself, and just seek help. There's so many different ways now. The
Yeah.
good part about technology is there's all these different, you can Google
The information age.
you
Yeah.
can connect with people super quickly. I'm available to anyone who's interested in learning more about what we've been talking about. Um, yeah, because it's not your fault.
All right. I'll move on to the final questions I asked all of my guests.
Okay.
But it was great having you on and tell your story and be vulnerable. And I've gained some insights myself. I think I'm gonna be doing more Joe Dispenza stuff.
Check it out. If
uh,
you keep doing it, it'll change. It'll blow your mind. I swear to God.
no, I did do one of his on YouTube. He has like an old one on YouTube, and yeah, that one of them it makes you zone out a little bit.
It makes you
He's
zone out a
like,
lot if
yeah,
you
he's like,
really do it.
I
Yeah.
forget what he said. There's something he's like, be in your mind, but not your mind or something. I forget exactly what he says, but that like just yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of different types that are, and sometimes for me, some are better than others depending upon where my
Hmm.
head's at, but they're next level.
So the first question is, what is your biggest regret in life?
Ooh. Uh, Not trusting myself more.
Mm.
I think as a kid, I was highly socialized and just like believing everyone else over myself. And it took me a long time. I think that's kind of common, but it took me a long time to realize that I need to trust myself, even if I'm wrong, because it's my life.
Mm. I don't think I ever had an issue trusting myself.
No,
I was always the type of person to learn through trial and error. Um, Even if somebody like told me to do something the right way, I would do it the wrong way just to learn. Um, but I could see that. That's a good one. Second question is, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life so far that makes you who you are?
who or what has made the biggest impact on my life? Um, I think traveling and being in different places and meeting people from other places, which I love. I love to travel. I love being in places where I don't speak the language. Partially because it forces me to be present. Like if I go to a new place, like I went to, um, you know, this is a vacation, Puerto Vallarta last year with my husband, but like just being, I'd never been to that city. I'd been to other places in Mexico, and I was like, it forces you to be present, which is, as we talked about, is where your point of power is, and where your point of enjoyment is. Um, and I don't speak very much Spanish, and actually a lot of people there didn't speak English, so I had to learn I was trying to learn some Spanish on the fly, and it just, and anytime I've been to Asia, I've been to Europe. Um, I just love being in different cultures and meeting people of different places and connecting with them. I think that's one of the reasons we're here, is to be able to connect with people, and something that I really love and that I've learned a lot from.
I think it opens up your mind more.
Yeah.
Um, and I was listening to a podcast, um, and they were saying that's one of the biggest issues between America and China, is that yes, we're like the two biggest superpowers of the world, but also one of our biggest issues is we're also the most polarized in culture.
Mm.
And that's why it's hard to understand each other and hard to understand why we do what we do and why they do what they do, is because we are like the most polarized in cultures.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding each other would bring us more peace in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Um, but I agree. I think that's why people love to travel. Anyways, it's
Mm-hmm.
like it's not just about seeing a new place, but it's also about seeing and experiencing a new culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good one. Third question is, what is one lesson that you had to learn the hard way?
Oof. Uh, these are not easy. I'm really thinking about that. The first thing that's coming to my mind is like kind of a combination of what I said already, which is trust myself, but also like a combination of like trusting myself to seek out the answers. Like with my experience with anxiety and panic attacks, I was a child at the time, so obviously my resources were limited. But like later, listening too much to doctors about things where I knew for me, I was like, no, this is not working. Like, and
Yeah.
having fear that I'm like, well, I have to listen to them because they know what they're talking about. And later I was like, oh, they didn't know what they were talking about. They did their best, but they didn't know. I don't think that's a clear answer, but like, um, uh, yeah, that's one example of that. Like listening to my gut
Following
with
your
my own body, like
intuition.
with my own
Yeah.
mental health issues.
Hmm.
Hmm.
No, I agree. I always tell people that, like, don't just listen to your doctor blindly.
No, and
Listen
that's
to
why,
your
and they often
body.
say, go get another opinion. Like
Hmm.
like go get a second or third opinion. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
you do know yourself better than anybody
Hmm.
else, and the gut is actually called the second brain.
Oh yeah.
Connected, it's connected when we develop in utero. The nerves, the stem cells that become the brain and the spinal cord also become the gut, the stomach and the intestines, and they're connected. So, trusting your gut, I would say, yeah, that's it. Like on many things, I've had to learn the hard way. Like, no, listen to yourself, listen to what your body and your
Yeah.
gut is saying, or versus whatever the hell the world is saying around you.
Have you heard of the I don't know if it's a real theory, uh, but it's like the theory that we evolved from the gut. Like the gut is the first is technically the first brain,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what controls everything, because the theory is like, think about it on a cellular level, like
Yeah.
of evolution.
Yep.
It started as like microbiome, and then
Yeah.
the
No, I think
organelles.
I think that you could probably prove that very easily. So if you think about single cell organisms, and again, I was a biology
Mm-hmm.
nerd. Single cell organisms, the first thing they do is they need to consume energy so that they continue to
Mm-hmm.
thrive. And then when you come into multicellular organisms, it's the same thing. We all need to even,
Thrive off of each other. Yeah.
right. So that existed before reproduction and
Before us.
consciousness
Yeah.
and nerve cells, and that's the first thing. Um,
Yeah.
no, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. That the theory that the stomach and the microbiome in there is actually the first brain,
Mm-hmm.
and it's controlling us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Uh, next question. What would you want to experience in life if time and money was not an issue?
Oh, I think I would just want to travel ad nauseum. You know, go everywhere. Try all. I'm a foodie too. Go try new foods. Just go see different parts of the world and meet different types of people, and because I really do love it.
What's your favorite like foreign dish?
Mm. Toss up. I love Italian food and I love Thai food. So
What's your favorite dish in both?
I think green curry in Thai food.
Green
Um,
curry.
yeah,
Is that
and
spicy?
you can make it spicy. Usually do a medium spice. And then in Italian food, so many. Um,
Pizza.
if yeah, I'm a New Yorker, so yeah, pizza, cacio e pepe is amazing. It's very simple, cheese and pasta dish. Um, I could go on and on. Gelato. I mean, I could go on and on forever. I studied for a year there, and it was just I ate really well. So
Have you ever had Lambrusco?
yeah, I lived in Bologna.
Lambrusco, and there's one wine that I don't really drink that much anymore because it gets me out of whack.
Yeah,
But there was this other wine that's from Hawaii, Italy, called Montepulciano.
Montepulciano.
Monte.
Yeah, it's in
Have you had that too?
yeah. So I was in
Yeah,
Siena and I was in Bologna. But Bologna makes Lambrusco. It's a sparkling red wine, which people like if they've never had it. It's really good,
it's like a
and
sweet wine.
it's a
Yeah,
little sweeter. And then
a little sweet. Yeah.
Montepulciano is in um, Italian wines are different than say like the way that they're very free flowing. You know, in France you can only
Mm-hmm.
grow certain grapes in certain regions. Like Champagne grapes are grown in Champagne. Italians, it's whatever, but Montepulciano is usually a Sangiovese, I believe, which is the grape of Chianti. It's in the region of Chianti in Tuscany. Yeah, they make amazing wine.
You're versed in it. Are you a winey too?
Huh?
Are you a wine head
I
or
love
whatever you
wine. I love wine.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite. I had it at like some restaurant. They had like some deal going on for like $3 a big glass, and yeah, I fell in love with that one.
Yeah.
Um, and I also love Indian. I think Indian food is one of my favorite. Indian curry, tikka masala.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my
Mm-hmm.
that's like my go-to.
I was always concerned about achieving, getting things done, getting recognition. I think at this point in my life, I've learned that it's really about connection. That we're all, we can't take any of the stuff that we earn or make with us money, boats, cars, houses, fame, whatever it is. It's about connection. And I think the world over, we're learning that the hard way. We are more socially connected on social media than ever. A lot of us are lonely. And so, because it's false, I see so many people
Yeah.
on social media that are like, my life's amazing. And I know them. I'm like, you're on the verge of divorce. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
So it's
It's
all
a
about
highlight
like
reel.
connection and honesty and coming from the heart. And that's all kind of coalesced for me fairly recently. I guess probably post COVID, because it's like
It's like a
It
wake up
changed the
call.
world. It changed my world.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we doing? You know, enjoy your life, be present, you know, love those that you love, do something that you love, be honest. That's at least the way I've, you know, where I'm at with how I'm trying to live my life.
No, I think COVID, despite how like horrible it was, I think it was a wake up call for a lot of people. It forced you to like, it kind of forced you to look within yourself
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
no, that was good. Thank you. Thank you, Suzy Hardy,
My pleasure.
for sharing your message and having a beautiful story to tell. Um, is there anything you'd like to share or promote before we close out?
Just if you'd like to, again, if you'd like to check out my work, curious about working with me, or want to get my free video tutorial of my #1 tool, go to SuzyHardy.com, SuzyHardy.com. Sign up for my newsletter, and you'll get immediate video tutorial to your inbox and see what I'm all about. And thank you for having me, Thomas.
As always, everybody, stay curious and keep going. Peace.